Hey, welcome back to Searching the Scriptures. I am Jonathan, and today we're going to be in Genesis 32 and look specifically at a famous story that many of us know, but Jacob wrestling with God. He's wrestling with a man that we know to be an angel, to be God, and he gets a blessing that kind of changes everything. But leading up to that story, we know that Jacob has lived in Mesopotamia with his uncle Laban. He has been given a wife, not one but two, in Leah and in Rachel, who he loved, and he's then had 11 children at this point, 11 sons, and then a daughter, so actually 12, and then he'll later have another son by the name of Benjamin that will come along after he is returned to the land that he was promised. But in this chapter, he has fled from Laban. He has heard the Lord call him to go back to the land that he was promised. And so he's done that. Laban has pursued him. God met Laban in a dream and said, do not speak to Joseph for either ill or bad. So just kind of let him go, leave him be. He says goodbye to his daughters and his grandchildren. And then so Jacob then is on his way with all of his children, all of his cattle, all of his wives, and is headed back toward the land that was promised to be his. But he decides to meet up with Esau, his older brother. And remember that Esau is the one whom Jacob stole his birthright from, kind of tricked him out of it by, buying it with a bowl of lentil stew. And then he tricked his father to bless him instead of Esau by dressing up like Esau and bringing him some fresh meat in a meal. And so Jacob's actually where he was because Esau wanted to kill him. And so Rebekah sent her son, Jacob, off to go find a wife because she was worried that Esau was going to kill Jacob. And so Jacob has this fear, and you see it play out in this story if you read the fullness of chapter 32. And he does pray early in the chapter, and he says, to God, to Yahweh, the God of Abraham and my father Isaac, that you would keep me safe because of this promise that you can't let all of my children be killed because you said my offspring would be as vast as the dust. And so you need to maintain me, keep me safe. And so, but from that prayer, from that foundation of promise, then he kind of fumbles things. He tries to take things in his own hand. He sends a bunch of cattle in droves. Ahead of him is a peace offering to his brother that he might find favor with him. And then he spends this dark night of the soul. He separates himself from the camp so that he could be alone, meeting his brother, who he's heard is on his way with 400 men, which seems like a war party, an army coming to meet him. And we then hear this, starting in verse 22. The same night he arose and took his two wives, his two female servants, and his 11 children and crossed the ford of Jabbok. And he took them and sent them across the stream and everything else he had. And Jacob was left alone. And a man wrestled with him until the breaking of day. And when the man saw that he did not prevail against Jacob, he touched his hip socket, and Jacob's hip was put out of joint as he wrestled with him. And then he said, let me go, for the day has broken. But Jacob said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. And he said to him, what is your name? And he said, Jacob. And then he said, your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel. For you have striven with God and with men and have prevailed. And then Jacob asked him, please tell me your name. But he said, why is it that you ask my name? And there he blessed him. So Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, saying, for I have seen God face to face, and yet my life has been delivered. The sun rose upon him as he passed Penuel, limping because of his hip. Therefore, to this day, the people of Israel do not eat the sinew of the thigh that is on the hip socket, because he touched the socket of Jacob's hip on the sinew of the thigh. So here we have a tremendous story about grappling with God. And I suppose we could look at this story and say, if you want to get what you want from God, you just need to hang on and wrestle him with all you are. That's not what the story's telling us, because this is a pivotal moment for Jacob. This is a transition. This is the man who had a vision of the stairway of heaven, right? Angels ascending and descending. He saw the divine commerce. He's had an image of God speaking to him. He had plenty to boast for. He was the strong man that won the favor of his future wife by lifting a stone by himself off of oh, well, he has become very wealthy with an abundance of cattle that the Lord has blessed him with as he cared for all of the flock of his father-in-law Laban. And so he is quite in a situation even to go before his brother here, but he's still in fear. He's inadequate in this moment. And instead of boasting in this wrestling, it's not actually about his strength, but it's his weakness where he finds transformation. Because Jacob will walk away with a limp. He'll be reminded forever of his need to be dependent on God, on the blessing that he is given for safety, for provision, for the promise to be carried out. This is a great picture for us because it's a reminder that from all of Scripture, we have been created that we too might be dependent on God for all of who we are and all that we would need, our place, our provision, our purpose. That we would humbly come before him with a limp and receive all that he's been given us. Jacob gives us a picture of Jesus in weakness, taking on trial, temptation, and even torture for us on the cross that we might have life, be given a new name, a new identity, and freedom. But Jacob gives his name as Jacob, he is essentially saying he is a deceiver, he is a liar, he is a trickster. But then the angel gives him a new name, a new identity. And when we come to Christ, that's what we are given, a new name, a new identity in him. It's not because we've boasted. It's not because we've earned it. It's not even because we've held on long enough. It's because Jesus did. So we come humbly, we come weak and in need, and in his strength, we're given grace. So we rejoice because we can live with a limp, and his power is made perfect in our weakness. So I'm Jonathan. Thanks for searching the Scriptures with me. We'll see you next time.